All right, so we're going to do a different kind of a warm up tonight. If you want to close your eyes and just listen, that's perfectly fine. I'm not going to. I was typing in, as I always do, just a reminder of a quick link to the concepts that we use. When I do classes live in person, there's always a whiteboard and something, and I'm 100% during the entire class always referring to them. And that happens so much less in this particular format. And it's easy for me to think, oh, yeah, everybody's just sitting there with split screens. They've got all the concepts up and ready. And whether you do that or not is really not so much the point. What the real point is for me is I want you guys to be sure that as you raise your hand, give us stuff to talk about, and I'm responding, that it's clear that I'm responding only from the perspective of one or more of any of these concepts. That's really all I have to offer. And I need to find out who said it or where it came from or something, but apparently there's some guru out there, that is not a word I use for myself at all, who said, I have nothing to teach you, but I can share my practice with you. And that's really how I feel about spiritual workout. I didn't make up any of these concepts. I was just the guy that's bouncing around. Oh, what is the meaning of life and what's my purpose and da-da-da. And all of a sudden I'm like, here's all this information. It kind of sounds like they're saying the same things. Sounds like they're saying these 15 concepts, give or take a little bit, and off we go. So I just want that to be clear. And I look forward to the day when there are, just like yoga exists and there's zillions of studios and even more zillions of teachers, right? I fully expect there to be, oh, I love taking Delilah's spiritual workout class. She just has a certain zit that she does. Or I love Christina's spiritual workout class. I really do see this ultimately as being way more than just me doing this piece. But today it's just me doing this piece. So tonight's warm up, I'm going to use these little default cards that I have. I just want to cycle through each of the concepts just to give us, I know that this warm up of a listing essentially of all the 15 concepts kind of occurs every few months. It seems like it's called for. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We're just going to sort of list through them. So you're welcome to receive any or all of this in whatever way you care to. Sit back, relax, just listen with your eyes closed. Another thing you might play around with as we're talking, we're just going to go through them. I might say a sentence or two about each one, and then we'll move on to our night. But I wonder what it would be like to just be thinking about the concepts, listening to them, and just doing just sort of a tapping while you listen. Who knows? You tell me. All right, so the 15 spiritual workout concepts that undergird and make up the entire spiritual workout practice. We're going to do them alphabetically. Be compassionate. So one of the things, and I'm just going to say some stuff that just comes off the top of my head right now, but one of the most important ways to think about compassion is within a relationship of any type is communication. And when we are listening compassionately, or when we are listening well, we are being compassionate. Oftentimes, being compassionate just means listening. And not just listening, I heard the words, but understanding, comprehending what the other person is saying. It means a lot of other things. That's one. Beliefs matter. Beliefs matter because they create experience. I love that Abraham Hicks says, I think it's them, they say, beliefs are just thoughts we think over and over and over again. So that's what we do here. We find the beliefs that we've been thinking, the thoughts and beliefs we've been thinking over and over and over again that are creating not good stuff in our lives, and we do what we do to transmute those from non-serving into serving. And then we also get very clear and conscious about creating beliefs that are in alignment with where it is we want to go. And another quick thing is when we're in some situation and something's just not pleasing us, it's not enjoyable, we don't like it, we're agitated, ask yourself in that moment, what am I believing? What am I believing? Be present is next. Be present means to accept everything without judgment, simply as it is. Just accept it. You don't have to like it. Acceptance has nothing to do with liking. It has nothing to do with condoning. It just says this is the reality. It's already been created. There's no point in my judging it. That's a whole other concept. So where do I go from here? Be present. Next on the hit parade, choices abound. Choices abound. For me, this concept is really about the idea that we're always making choices. We're just not usually conscious of the choices we're making. And oftentimes that has to do specifically with beliefs. If you're hanging out in spiritual workout for not too long, you're going to start to get accustomed to the concept of beliefs. Beliefs matter. You're going to start to hear them when others utter them, hear them less so in your own voice, but that just comes with practice. And then once we get more and more conscious of what we're believing, then we can choose on purpose whether we want to believe this thing or not. We always say there's what happens and there's what we make it mean, right? My grandfather died. That's what happened. I'll never have that kind of love again. That's what I'm going to make it mean, right? So I have a choice in that moment whether to take on that belief or not. Choices abound. We're always making them. Let's see if we can make them more and more consciously. Everything is energy. You guys know I'm not a science guy so much, but this is the default concept for the people who are really interested in the science of so much of what we're doing. One of the places, though, that I think that this concept really helps us is when we're stuck in judgment, right? And it often has to do with personalities and people and history and things like that. So if we can back up and just start to see things in terms of energy, let's just think of a hot political conversation, right? That can be fraught. If we can sort of boil it down in the moment of this person's believing this person's believing this person's believing this, maybe that's obvious and we're talking about it, maybe you're just observing that. And then you see, well, not all of these beliefs and thoughts and ideas weigh the same. They all vibrate energetically in a different place. And so when we can, on purpose, choose to align with simply a higher vibration thought or belief or idea, we can take the judgment out of it and just go about it from that perspective. I don't know if that really makes sense to you, but if not, you can ask me later. The next one, have an attitude of gratitude. And I think the word here to really, that is the most important word, is attitude. Gratitude is a frequency raiser. We're just talking about vibration. So if I'm in gratitude, I'm going to be vibrating at a much higher level than if I'm in guilt, right? That's an example of what I was talking about before. So gratitude is a high frequency in terms of the kinds of thoughts that we can ever think. But having an attitude of gratitude is about a constant all day, 24/7, if you ask me, awareness of and conscious connection to the metaphysical parts of us, right? The being part of the human beings we are. And that every single thing that we are experiencing has a source, and that source is whatever we call source. Some of us call source, right? So if I am 24/7 conscious, awake, and aware of my connection to all that is, and if I'm in constant dialogue, and I choose for much of that dialogue to be about gratitude, then I'm cultivating an attitude where everywhere I go, no matter where I look. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. That's a beautiful tree. I love the sun shining. I love the way that person smiled at me. I love, and just a constant state of appreciation. It's in the attitude of it, to me, feels much more intrinsic. It becomes much more a conscious part of who we really are. And when we're used to the idea of that connection always being on, and when we're used to the idea that gratitude is just good practice to express it when we can, then the next step is really developing that attitude where it's pretty much all we're doing all the time. Intentions matter. You ever hear that one? Yeah, this one comes up a lot. Law of attraction's always on. It's another concept. What do you want? So law of attraction's always on. We're always getting more and more of what we're thinking about. So it matters what we want to be, matters what we want to do, matters what we want to have. And we answer that question, what do we want to be, do, or have, with a shiny, clear intention. You guys know a lot about that. Judgments separate us. Judgment is the exact opposite of compassion, right? So you can be in judgment or you can be in compassion, but you cannot be in them at the same time. And if you find that you are or can be, please tell me, because I would love to see that or witness it. So judgments separate us. I call you an idiot. I'm no longer really dealing with you as much as I'm thinking and dealing with idiot. So that creates the separation between us. And we know the antithesis of that is listening. So I can't listen to you and call you an idiot at the same time. So if I lose my judgment and move into compassion, now I can hear you. There's no separation between us. And one more thing, judgments that we have about ourselves separate us from who we really are. And we go through life, it's like, I'm an idiot, I'm a loser, I'm not smart enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not rich enough, I'm not blah, 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 blah. And that's all we're thinking about. And we are so far removed from the truth of who we really are, and we feel shitty. But we think it's because we're not these things, when in fact, well, you know. All right, here's one of my favorites. They're all my favorites. Listen to inspiration, right? So this is all fundamentally spiritual being having a human experience. That's the spiritual part of us, the being part of the human beings we are, right? That part of us that's connected, like I said just before, to the part beyond the physical, the metaphysical, the soul, the spirit, the higher self, connection to God. And it's all fundamentally in our bodies about feeling. And what we're doing here is learning to, and it's about guidance and intuition and gut and guidance. So what does guidance feel like? Well, we have to discover that for ourselves. We have to create enough quiet space to be able to be, oh, that's my inspiration, that's my head. It's the difference between the head and the heart, the ego and the heart. Whatever, all these other ways we have for talking about it. So what we're doing here is we're really growing our listening to inspiration muscle, because once we've got that down, that's our guidance. We don't need anything else, really and truly. We always know what to do, when to do it, because of this little bugger. All right, mind and body are connected. Yes, we know this from anybody who's involved with our tapping at all or has done much of it, knows right off the bat the power of this particular concept and the ways in which how we think affect our body, the ways that our bodies can release and let go of things that they're holding on to, oftentimes in conjunction with how we're thinking. It's a very powerful connection, and one that the awareness of it helps us to live and breathe and enjoy life in a much healthier way. You know, there are a lot of people who just, through no fault of their own in our culture, just sort of disengage from their own bodies. You know, they go right to the doctor, tell me what to do, what's wrong with this thing in my body, what, you know, and it's like there's a divorce between who we are and our bodies. And so here, spiritual beings having a human experience, we really want to bring those two things together and see how they play off one another. And part of doing that is taking responsibility, right? So I just said earlier about listening to inspiration. What is inspiration? What is my guidance? How would I know that? That really is our responsibility individually to figure out, sorry to say. Also, the major place where this one comes into play, I think, you might agree, is where we are overly willing to take responsibility for things we're not so responsible for, and less willing to take responsibility for the things we absolutely are responsible for. This concept goes far wider and far deeper than that, but I'll leave it there. Law of attraction is always on. What else can I say? What I can say is a lot of times people don't believe this, or they say they believe it and they don't quite believe it, or they believe it conditionally. And we've talked about it. It comes up here a lot, and I'm glad that it does, because it's a huge, I don't want to overplay that huge, but it's a persistent struggle for a lot of us. And I'm talking about people who have a fair amount of experience with personal growth, spiritual growth, and everything that we're doing here, because we see things in our lives not quite working, and we believe we've done all the right practices and we've set the shiny, clear intentions, and something's just not working. And it's just not working on the right time, or maybe in the right way. And so we struggle a lot with fully believing that the law of attraction is always on and what that actually means. That, I think, is the hardest thing for those of us who are here. And please let me know what you think about that. I love this idea that we're all connected. Again, like all these concepts, they're very broad and they go very deep. But this means it really does matter who you are. It really does matter every nanosecond of every hour of every day of every week, month, year, etc., decade, on and on. If we're all connected, then everything affects everything. So when people talk about being an empath and they walk around and they just take on energy, it's because we're all connected, right? So that's a way that it shows up, and it's not really so helpful. But it's also very helpful. This is how prayer works, right? How am I praying for you? I'm praying for you. We're all connected. You can be somewhere on the other side of the planet. And if you are open to receiving that, boom, it's done, because we're all connected. And so it really does matter who you are, what you're doing, how you feel, and what you say all the time. No pressure, but it matters. We're all connected, so it affects everything. So another little place where this shows up is the activist, right? The political activist who wants environmental sanity, heal the planet, all of that, fantastic, but is super angry and pissed off all the time. And so what they put out is not their rich, juicy vision, intention-wise, of what a healthy planet looks like. That would be really helpful. But they're putting out anger, and through no fault of their own. It's just how they're conditioned and all that stuff. But we're all connected. Everything's all connected. So if you're trying to affect a change somewhere and you are not aligned with what that change is, then because we're all connected, you're not helping as much as you might think. A lot of times people will sit perhaps and write a check or make a donation to something, and then sort of cancels it out in a weird way. I'll stop now. 2 more. We are here for a reason. Basic, simple. 2 primary, that's not 2. 2 places where I see this showing up all the time. 1, we're here for a reason. We got born on purpose for a purpose. No accidents to me getting born into this body, into the family, into the race, religion, culture, socioeconomic, country, all of it, right? And it means no accidents. That's another way to say we're here for a reason. There are no accidents. So again, there are people in the world, everything's random, and there are people in the world, nothing's random, right? Everything on a soul level, it's all for something. So there's lots to do with this concept when we find ourselves in situations, if we're being present to a situation that's not so much to our liking, and we trust that we're there for a reason, then There are things we can do from that place, like who do I have to be? What muscle do I have to grow or develop in order to navigate to peace if I trust that I'm in this situation for a reason? And then the other place where it shows up is what I was just saying. We're in any given present moment for a reason. It's not an accident that you're right where you are right now. And that's always true 24/7. So again, this concept for me is we're here for a reason. We got born on purpose for a purpose as who we are. And then wherever I am at any given moment is soul level, right where I'm supposed to be, and it's not accidental. So rounding them all out, we belong to the planet, not the planet to us. I love this concept because of how massive it is and all the things that it truly means. And we almost never get to them. But it essentially means we don't own the planet. We don't have dominion over it, just like every other species on it. We're just part of it. And we have whatever role we have. And that means that its nature is also our nature. So a few things we know about the nature of the planet is, let's see, it always seeks balance. So we human beings are always seeking balance. Homeostasis is what it's called in biology, I believe, right? So that idea that you want balance, I want balance, the planet wants balance, that's just natural. That's just how we all are, it and us. There's no difference. Another way the planet manages itself is to be in a constant state of change. You know, when I'm not in the city, I live in the mountains, in the forest. And I can see in the course of an hour how things change. Take the same hike every day and see the course every single day. It's different. And when we human beings move out of this space that change is bad, I resist change, and back into the practice of allowing change the way nature allows it, then we align ourselves with the nature of nature. We allow change, we don't resist it, and we have a much better life experience. Let's see, there's another major way that the planet manages itself, which I'll end with, which is it is all about interconnectivity. Nothing in nature that survives nothing that's utterly independent in nature will survive, and nothing that's utterly dependent will survive. Now, dependencies occur. A human baby gets born, that little thing's dependent on some people to take care of it, right? That's not dependent in the sense, that's about interconnectivity. There's agreement. I, baby, will bring you joy, and you will take care of me and, make sure I'm clothed and fed and all of that stuff. And so this idea, so when we're working in teams, when we're working in community, when we're working with more than just one person, or even one person doing a thing that connects to other, the degree to which we can infuse our projects with a spirit of interconnectivity, I think is the degree to which we, again, align with the nature of nature, and we're off and running. So I baby will bring you joy. That's it. That's my little summary of the 15 concepts that make up the spiritual workout practice. Again, I just thought it would be a nice review. So let's go about the evening and see what else we got.